Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to assume a lot of people are coming back to the ongoing crypto conspiracy, and this is the Bitcoin apocalypse part two. There may be a part three, four. I don't know. What I do know is that John Perez is back with me. He's the one that coined the Bitcoin apocalypse. And John, you must have a pretty shiny crystal ball because so far you have been calling this, and you've been calling this for months. I mean, I forget when we connected, but I think it was October or something. So before we start, I've got the mic. I'm going to continue. This comes from Gold Eagle, and Gold Eagle produces a lot of content in the, obviously in the gold space. This is from Clive Mond. Known Clive for a long time. He's a technical type, but I thought I'd just read the title of the article and a couple snippets here. Gold and silver set to soar as bank accounts and crypto wallets come under threat. A big additional driver for investing in gold and silver has become apparent just in recent days, with it becoming clear that governments around the world, starting with Canada, are not above plundering bank accounts and online crypto wallets of anyone they consider to be a renegade or even to be holding or expressing views that are not complete conformity with government policies and agendas. Well, isn't that a mouthful? Then he starts going into some of the mining companies, and he does a lot of technical work, as I just said. He's showing, I'll call it a descending triangle from a long-term perspective, several months, and those usually break out to the upside. Of course, gold's actually doing quite well here at the $1,900 level in US dollar terms. Silver yet to really rocket, but we both know from all of our silver experience, John, that silver can go anywhere in a hurry and leave you in the dust. So I turn it over to you. Take it anywhere you want, but let me continue just a moment long. I've gotten 3 or 4 emails today from my Canadian subscribers, and they are, won't use the word panicked, but they are most concerned about what I just read there. And so I'm sure you've got plenty to say. So let me turn it over to you, John.
Well, Canada is the big deal. I mean, what I've been saying, about the crypto conspiracy, a white hat operation, Executive Order 13818, and who would have guessed that if you were a Trump voter and have crypto in Canada and were expressing your freedom, that they would be dropping the hammer on crypto out there, but specifically there on freedom-loving people here. I mean, that was something I would never have envisioned, but I believe that same pattern you see happening in Canada, I believe is going to happen here in the United States, but I didn't think it would be politically connected like this. I think there's 2 sides to every coin here, but I've said this in maybe once or twice in the very beginning of the crypto conspiracy. I said I had the idea that it could be Biden doing the heavy lifting and crushing of Bitcoin because it was Joe Biden himself who extended Trump's national emergency on Executive Order 13818. And what is happening in Canada looks very much identical to Executive Order 13818. The problem in Canada, though, is that the people doing the grabbing are the ones that should probably be the ones becoming the grabbed, because the Canadian truckers are expressing their right to free speech here. And I mean, that is such a big thing. And I'll get into that a little more, but I'm glad we're having Bitcoin apocalypse too, because everything's coming true as expected, but it's happening much quicker than I expected. But I actually was watching Bitcoin Apocalypse 2 this morning and last night, and I was going through it. I think it was at 50 minutes into it, I talked about exactly these things happening when things in Ukraine broke out. And it's literally fulfilling itself. And then to your point, in the beginning of when we first started this conspiracy interviews, we started in October, and Bitcoin was trading between $60,000 and $67,000, and I think everyone said that we were broadcasting FUD when that happened, and the crypto peddlers out there double down. We're going 100,000, 120,000 Bitcoin, and here we are down at $37,000, and they're still saying to double down. It's like, and this goes to our first crypto conspiracy. And what was our second series? We did the silver psyop. And what did I say in the silver psyop? They would parallel up and it would be the reversed. And today, silver decoupled from the Dow and is completely decoupled from Bitcoin. And now the silver psyop theory is coming true. We see Bitcoin crashing and we see silver moving up. It's being held down, but it wants to move up. And in any other market, with World War III starting up here, or what appears to be World War III, we have sanctions, we have Nord Stream 2, we have the natural gas problem, we have crude oil at $100, and here silver is sitting here at $23, kind of like whistling through the graveyard here, waiting to go to $50 here. And everyone, the silver people are talking about it, but everything's coming to pass. And some of our mantras I wrote down here was, I've been saying this for over a year: Bitcoin dies, silver flies. You could type in hashtag, do a search on it. Bitcoin dies, silver flies. Well, Bitcoin is dying and silver is flying, and it's going to fulfill exactly what I said in the silver psyop. And then lately, for the last month, I've been telling people, you've got all these analysts echoing from the fake news, talking about this many contracts here, this many contracts, and I've said Putin was going to break the COMEX. I did it in my GMO World War video on Telegram, and my hashtag from that was bombs move markets, bombs move markets. It's not about contracts. It's not about everything else. In this scenario here, bombs are going to move market, because if you take Vladimir Putin's Russian position of a world war with another country, the West, they'll call it, all wars start with banking and economic wars first. And what would be the greatest way to just basically destroy the COMEX is to create a situation where the economic forces create sanctions against Russia, Nord Stream 2, and then I've got what the third piece is here. We've got a military action and all these things happening. And here silver's doing nothing here. Silver has been, there was a couple hours where silver was fixed yesterday, and I'm convinced that the COMEX, everyone is running around inside the COMEX here like the Keystone Cops and the Three Stooges as these sanctions come out. Because I've been in this market, you've been in this market forever. Come on, we used to talk about geopolitical, instability, moving silver and gold, and here's like nuclear weapons are moving. Zelensky says yesterday he wants nuclear weapons, and here Bitcoin's going down, 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 down. Stock market's down, 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 and silver is kind of like going, just kind of skipping along, like it's like no big deal. So to me, we're in a completely controlled demolition of the entire global financial system. The entire global financial system is being demolished right now in real time. And we don't need the spot price to tell us this. All we have to do is look at the geopolitical fundamentals that are happening in real time. And that's confirmation that we can see it. It's falling apart. I've never been more busier in my life right now. The spot price of gold and silver would never tell you that, though. So let me take a breath there. Okay. Okay. You're like, this is going to get good here. In October, we did our interviews. Bitcoin was trading at 60 to 67,000, and we were talking FUD. And here it is. It's on its way down, and all these different things are being fooled. Ethereum, even better. Ethereum, when we started our interviews, our crypto conspiracy work, Ethereum was at $4,744, and everyone said it was going to $10,000. And then, of course, let me turn this off here. The interviews were FUD, and here we are. We were right on the money. Now, had silver made a move like this, we would be what? We would be at the $14, $15 levels. And there were a bunch of people out there predicting $14, $15 silver. Never happened. I'm sorry. So if you doubled down on Bitcoin and you sold your silver, right now you're probably wishing you'd listen to David Morgan and the Morgan Report, because we've been right on the money here. So yeah, so Ethereum, $4,700 today, $2,604. And here's the last 7 days. In the last 7 days, this is live from, by the way, February 2nd, 2022, or 2/2/2/2/2, a very rare date. Remember this day. Bitcoin down 14% in 7 days. But I thought it was a hedge against inflation. Come on, everybody. They all said it was a hedge against inflation. It was a hedge against mad printing at the Federal Reserve. And here it's going down. Why would anyone be selling their Bitcoin? Maybe because they're buying silver finally. But John, the price is not going up. Well, that's because the panic of the derivative markets, Bank of America, COMEX, if they let silver and gold go right now, David, you and I know silver will bury the Fed. It will bury the bankers. And as you know, as the Q crowd knows, gold destroys the Fed. Well, if gold destroys the Fed, then silver will bury the banks. And that is what I believe is happening right now, despite the prices being fixed right now. Despite the prices, so John, what are you saying? I said, look at what's going on around the world right now. The sanctions, the war. Russia is going to move all borders to 1997 Soviet Union borders. Hungary is going to move in and become a Russian state, Russian Federation. I believe Yugoslavia is going to be a Russian state. If you want to know who the future Russian Federation states will be, just look at who is making gas deals right now with Russia. Hungary just signed a 10-year deal with Russia for cheap natural gas. So everyone in Hungary, you're going to have nice warm beds to sleep in from here on forward for the next 10 years because your leader there, your president of Hungary, Orban, made a deal for cheap Russian gas. Well, of course, if you lead a country and your people are not warm, you're in big, big trouble.
I want to jump in there and just make a comment on the possibility of the COMEX having issues. It's not price driven, and let me explain. If you can't deliver, it doesn't matter if the price of silver is 18 or 180. If you can't deliver, you can't deliver. And of course, we all know, or almost anyone that's followed my work for more than 2 or 3 videos knows, that the contracts, because the silver market is a derivatives market, says that you can settle in cash. So in technical terms, the COMEX can never default because it can always go to the mother bank and borrow fiat and pay it off and be legal contractual wise. However, if there was a big player that needed silver physically, and the last resort was the COMEX, and the COMEX couldn't deliver, that's a default, really. I mean, in practical terms, it's a default. And that's not price dependent. That's supply demand dependent. So if there was a demand that couldn't be met by the supply because that supply was promised out in the future or had to be held on to or was already promised somewhere else or was going out, the door in a Brinks truck or several trucks or a semi. And so that's my point. People say, wait a minute, you couldn't default, it's too low of a price. It has nothing to do with price. It has to do with the demand. So I just wanted to get that comment in, John, because you're correct. And I just want to clarify it that if we think in terms of silver only, I mean, I'm going to go on and digress for a moment. A lot of people are upset that, silver, especially beginning of the year, of 2021, when the silver squeeze really was taking hold. Lots of people from Wall Street silver, lots of people buying with extreme premiums, buying $26, $7 silver with, huge margins, huge premiums. And most of them are probably still holding. And then to see it, fall off later on in the year, they're starting to maybe question themselves. Well, the point is that if you thought in terms of silver, you might get a better perspective, which means if you had 100 ounces in January 2021, and now you're in February 2022 and you have 400 ounces, I don't care what the price is, you are richer in terms of silver. And that's really what you need to think about. That's hard to do that because everyone gets out their calculator and they calculate, I've got 400 ounces and it's worth $24.12 today on the derivatives market. But silver's traded as a derivative. But the last point is you can make your own market. I could go to you and John and say, look, I love your grapefruit and I love them so much that I want to make a deal with you. I'm going to give you this many ounces of silver for 2 bushels of grapefruit. Oh, David, I need a little bit more silver than that. My grapefruits are really sweet. And we cut a deal. So you have the power to negotiate in real money, even though people never stop to consider that because so few transactions are accomplished that way. But when the bottom line hits, and you don't want fiat, the last thing you want to do is get paid off in fiat. In other words, if you're holding a contract and you've got 10 contracts for silver and you stand for delivery and you get a check from the COMEX, you got to run to the bank and cash it and hope that it still has some value. I mean, I'm exaggerating to make the point. The reason you own precious metals is to be out of the fiat system, yet everyone, almost everyone, does all their calculations on what is it in terms of this paper money. That's not how to think about it. The way to think about it is it's outside the system. That's why you own it, because when all else fails, that's what's left standing. Did I make my point?
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is this too, we can look at the COMEX right now. I mean, it's literally, it's derivative heaven. It is really a derivative based operating system designed for traders that want to trade derivatives. I mean, and I get the purpose of the COMEX for trading back and forth. It makes complete sense. But there comes a point where the COMEX also moves against the fundamental trader and investor in silver. And you're absolutely right. So I'm a firm believer that the current situation that's happening right now is going to put enough pressure on that paper system where they're going to have to somehow or another either default and pay cash or come up with all the silver. But in these things, when they happen, and this is pure speculation and conspiracy on my point right now, in my opinion here, what we're seeing right now with the price of silver just being fixed and held sideways has been, bizarre. I mean, all my years, I've never seen anything like that. As far as I'm concerned, it's kind of like if someone, if you it's the place is going to be empty here pretty soon. We're going to, where did everybody go? It's like, well, no one saw it on the price of silver. I think the last place to look at to find out if something's going wrong with the COMEX is going to be to look at the price of spot silver. This is like the last place to look, It's like, we're the last one. They're not going to tell anybody. It's like, well, it'll be a press release and something. All of a sudden we'll see a $5 or $10, $15, $20 move in silver. And it's like, well, what happened? And then it'll be old news. Like, we said it was happening here. But the reality is the derivative paperwork, as you described, the derivative paper side, they can just fix that price right here while the world ends. The world can be over here, nuclear missiles in flight, cities on fire, and they can still hold that paper price in place. But then you might say, look, well, silver's not going anywhere, John. It's still $24. I say, oh, have you bought any coins lately? You go to the coin shop. It's like, my gosh, the guy wants $20 premium for silver. Why is that? Is it because that's the street. That's the real price. That's like at the central banks, tier one asset is gold. In the street, tier one asset is silver here. So what I see right now, based on, I've been a geopolitical guy for decades, and what we see happening right now is just unheard of. It's unheard of. And to see silver fixed here, I just say I see derivatives and I see fundamental war going here that doesn't make any sense. Look at oil. We're almost at $100 a barrel. I believe Brent crude was broken today. Well, now we have the silver to gold oil ratio is now coming into play as something to analyze. You look at all the different ratios that are going on right now, even gold with all the things going on. We had strategic bombers from Russia fly into Syria last Friday. We had MiG-31s armed with nuclear-capable hypersonic missiles flying into Syria, right off the Mediterranean, where a part of the U.S. fleet is in the Mediterranean, thinking about going through the Bosphorus. That area is just starting to heat up. What does the price of silver do? Price of silver goes down 25 cents. It's like, okay, submarines everywhere, which we don't know. We've got literally the Russian army is now going to build the largest bases since the Soviet Union going into Ukraine in certain areas. They're going to take back Donbass and Luhansk. They're going to move the borders to 1997 Soviet Union borders. And here's silver yawns through it. So is it really silver yawning, or is it the derivative paper markets? I believe it is the derivative paper markets. They're being held down because the last thing they want to do is signal to people here that the COMEX is cornered and the Dow is cornered and silver and gold are about to explode. Because if they let the price go, we know it's going to be fulfilled. Bitcoin dies, silver flies. And if that happens, if it starts to move, which I believe it's going to happen real soon, the Fed's going to move. Well, Biden is going to make one of two very critical moves that are going to be critical here. Are they going to raise the Fed to stop inflation, or are they going to wait until the sanctions and the Nord Stream issue hits the markets, which they will, because the Nord Stream 2 issue was canceled today. And Germany has only 5% natural gas in their storage unit. The people are going to freeze. Well, here comes Biden rolling in a train of liquid natural gas. And it was Prime Minister Medvedev who said that Europeans are going to pay double and triple their price for nat gas. Well, that's going to set off the people against leadership there. And leadership there, I mean, it's deep state WEF guys. These are deep state guys. They have a script to play here. And if obviously Russia bad, we're good. Russia bad, we're good. 2 days ago, I think it was Sunday or Friday, when they started talking about canceling Nord Stream gas in Europe. And Ukraine, by the way, Ukraine has no gas. Everything in Ukraine is being run by fireplace. Isn't that wonderful? Wood. They're running entire buildings on wood. They have no natural gas. Well, that's what, 6 years after Obama and Biden, launched a false flag operation and replaced leadership there. Now this is what you get, basically a failed state. And Zelensky was talking about getting nuclear weapons. Silver does nothing here. Now you look at Eastern Europe. I mean, you look at Europe, Germany, they're out of gas. They're going to pay out the nose for liquid natural gas. But suddenly Germany looks like it may face some of the same problems as Ukraine. Because they're following the script that they don't want Russia to control the area with commodities, with natural gas here. So this is not going to last that long. It's going to implode. And when this finally implodes, what we're going to see in Germany is this. There's not enough facilities or infrastructure to take in the amount of liquid natural gas that was being supplied by Russia. And this is going to start to tumble. It's going to start to slow down industry. It's going to slow down jobs. And you're going to start to see the economic engine of Germany start to collapse. And this is going to rock back and forth. And what did Biden send to make up for Russian gas? He's sending 2/3 of all U.S. natural gas production to Europe. Sure, he's going to make some money, but he just shut down Keystone. And this is all natural gas commodities. What does this have to do with gold and silver? It has to do with the fact that we're coming into winter for the United States. 2/3 of our heating has gone off to Europe. Germany's going to pay. Their people are going to freeze this year. Hungary is not going to freeze, and Vladimir Putin is going to be sitting on the sideline, cashing in, because this is going to destabilize everything. And the Middle East is just starting to heat up with nuclear weapons being moved. I expect to see tactical nuclear weapons moved into Syria. The kind of bombers they moved in there, these are not just conventional weapons. And it's not just Syria. I've said now for 3 months that we would have a DEFCON 2 Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. And this is going to launch gold and silver to the moon. Just like 1963, when we went to DEFCON 2 under the JFK administration here, we are going to see Tu-160 supersonic bombers, strategic bombers, flying into Venezuela, and they're going to be carrying hypersonic nuclear capable missiles. And the key thing about that is that Venezuela ratified that on Friday, and we're going to see this is all going to expand. And the funny part is this is happening right now. As I tell you these things, I have documented them very well on Silver is Money on Telegram. But better yet, I forecasted this 30, 60, 90 days ago in total accuracy. It's coming now. They were ratified next Friday. And the significance of everything I'm telling you is this: silver continued to yawn like it was in bed. Get up. It's time to get out of bed, silver. It's time to go up here. No, we're going to sleep in some more. Nothing's happening. The world is ending. I don't see it. If silver had a personality, it would just be drunk in bed with a hangover, waiting for a nuclear flash.
Well, let me comment on a couple places here. One is that there's a pretty high correlation with silver and oil. And oil just keeps getting more and more pricey. And then the other thing about sanctions is, silver is a metal of war. I mean, it's a strategic metal. It's irreplaceable. It can't be substituted in almost all cases. So let's say that you wanted to play hardball on these sanctions. What if you sanction silver? What if Mexico, the number 1 or 2 producer, says, hey, we're not getting enough food. I'm just making this up, but as a scenario, and we're not shipping that. We're not exporting silver until we get, this commodity that we want. I mean, there's a lot of leverage in things that are needed, and of course, energy is number 1. That's why the natural gas thing is so critical, as you well outlined. But silver is probably number 2 as far as all minerals are concerned. Silver's number 1. As far as commodities are concerned, it's probably number 2. But I'm just throwing that out there because, going into history, I forget the name of the war, but it was in India. And the soldiers refused to fight anymore unless they were paid in silver. They wouldn't take the script of the government anymore. And, I'm just giving you a little bit of history for a distinct reason. When you're at the end of the inflationary experiment, and this one's a worldwide one, a lot of distortions happen that people, can't believe are taking place. I mean, if I told you about a week ago that Castro, Trudeau, whatever his name is there, was going to close down these bank accounts that we opened the show with, you might have said yes or no. You do some pretty deep research and have a pretty broad mind and you're pretty visionary on the geopolitical scene. But my point is, most people would say you're out of your freaking mind. There's no way he might, do this, or he might slap your hand, or he might do, but he's not going to close a bank account on you. Well, there you go. Which shows you how safe a bank is. I mean, I just got off the phone with one of my hedge fund buddies, and he just started laughing, and okay, he's got a kind of a dry sense of humor. He says, people are crying about confiscating gold. Because confiscating gold, blank, 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 and I won't say those 3 words. They're going to confiscate something, they'll close your bank account. Duh. That's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the Trudeau thing, I've always called him Justin Castro. My biggest concern with that whole situation in Canada is it's going to be the story of the decade. Remember, we talked about Uranium One. The last time we had a DEFCON 2 problem was with Castro Sr. in Cuba. Now, all of a sudden, we got the other Castro on the north border here, and there's Uranium One. And I have some very, very disturbing, assessments of how that's going to end. I mean, it's this way. At this point, we have the president of a communist country, Z, criticizing Trudeau. I mean, Z of all people criticizing Trudeau. And then we have Vladimir Putin, all of a sudden is being demonized in the news all day, while Justin Castro brings in people with no badges, no name tags, clubbing people, kicking them, kneeing them, stealing their trucks, seizing them, selling them, grabbing their money, and nothing from the media. Nothing. It's absolutely shocking here. And that has changed the entire game. And what really is scary, and I've said this all along, that Ukraine is paralleling Canada. As the Ukraine sinks into the abyss, into near war, people need to understand that Canada, as a member of NATO, has to deal with Article 4 and Article 5. And what is important here is that what is going to stop Trudeau from saying, well, Ukraine has descended into conflict. I'm going to declare a national emergency and martial law and Article 4, and we're going to send Canadian soldiers to Ukraine. And by the way, we're having problems here in Canada. I think we have Russian agents in the truckers, and we need some NATO soldiers here to protect us as part of NATO. There's nothing stopping this guy now from going to that level. He's already, even me in my doom and gloom, crystal ball area here of looking, through what could happen here. I could never have predicted that Justin Trudeau would go full Nazi, with full this, just full, look at this and like, he's grabbing wallets, he's grabbing crypto. And what are they going to do? They're going to say it was a threat It's a national security threat. And what did I say the whole time about Bitcoin in the crypto conspiracy? It's a national security threat to the United States. So this is really changed everything. And then back to our original topic here, the Bitcoin apocalypse. I'm gonna bring in Russia back in the picture because now I've got some updates here, and I believe Russia is going to be a significant player in putting the spotlight on Bitcoin, and a lot of people are going to be thrown off by this. No one's going to see this one here. I see it, but the current environment right now in Bitcoin is everyone starting to flee. They're, maybe we should do this investment. Maybe we should do this one here. A few people are still doubling down on Bitcoin, but the maximalists, they're all Bitcoin. I think some of the maximalists really don't have a choice. I think they have scripts to read, because if you were a trader with common sense, you're like, okay, that trade's dead. We're out. We made some money. We got out at 60 grand, 65. Let's go to the next trade. Certain people in Bitcoin are like, it's like kamikaze. It's a kamikaze trade now. It's like the boat is sinking. It's taking in water. It's like, but it goes to the silver psyop. Remember when when silver crashed, the silver people hung on, and then Bitcoin came and it took off, and now it's making that cross. Just as I said, Bitcoin down, silver up. We're making that transition right now here. But this is regarding Russia here. I've been saying this for people for over 2 years. I've always said it will take a nuclear war to move the markets. It's like, what do you mean, John? I said, it's the powers that be that are in control. I mean, look, we got to keep. I was just reading here I got distracted because I'm reading some tweets coming over the wire here on Telegram that there's a possibility that the Queen may have died today on 222222. Well, if she goes, what happens to all that gold in those vaults and those pictures of her walking around with all that gold? These are big events here, but the markets, what are they going to do? I've said for 2 years it'll take a nuclear war to move these markets here. And this is why I don't spend too much time over analyzing, all the different things that people cover in traditional silver analysis here. Ukraine and genocide and Bitcoin. Last week, Vladimir Putin, President of Russia, has consistently said that genocide is actively going on in the Donbass. And at the same time he came up with that story, I thought it was odd. The same day, CNBC and all the major news stations started talking about sending Bitcoin being accepted to fight Russia. I thought, what are the odds that these mainstream business people are talking about moving to Bitcoin? It's suddenly accepted in Ukraine. And there's a war heating up here. And then at the same day, Vladimir Putin says there's genocide. They found 276 bodies. Now that's going to unfold. And someone asked, well, why did they not ban it? In fact, if anything, Russia embraced it. But a few people said, oh, John, well, Russia accepted Bitcoin. I said, did you read the press release carefully? Of course you didn't read it. There's two sides to everything. And I said this in my last Bitcoin apocalypse video. I said the way Russian politics work, it goes back and forth, double reverse, then you get the truth. That's just the way it operates. They did the same thing here. They said it's accepted, but they said there was conflict in the central banks because the central bank wants to ban it. So what we're hearing now is acceptance, yes, taxation, yes, but they were specific in every single press release I read from that came out of Russia, not mainstream, pumper Bitcoin publications. The original text in here, they made it very clear that there was a conflict with the Russian central bankers and they wanted to ban crypto entirely. So that tells me there's an ongoing battle there and we don't know who's winning. Is it deep state? Is it liberal? It's left? Hard to say in Russian politics here. But in my opinion here, they're saving that trump card about banning it for an event to come forward. And I believe it's going to be the Ukraine genocide story and Bitcoin going in to be used to purchase weapons that are being used against the Russian Federation in the areas of Donbass and Luhansk. And if they find out, because they can trace this stuff, and a lot of people don't know, a lot of people still don't know that as John McAfee said, Bitcoin is a surveillance and tracking device. I can say this till the cows come home, and people are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" It's a surveillance and tracking device. McAfee, king of software security, he would know this. I don't think he was joking around when he said it's going to zero and it's a tracking and surveillance device. If McAfee is correct, if we assume he's correct, let's say he is correct, and Vladimir Putin was listening to him, he's like saying, let's keep this here and let's surveillance and track who's sending Bitcoin to the Ukraine to buy weapons, because now we're dealing with a genocide case here. And who's the head of the UN Security Council right now? I believe Russia just took over the UN Security Council. Also, the IMF warned 2 weeks ago, warned El Salvador, do not use Bitcoin as legal tender. That's a major shot across the bow. The Russian banks today, they legalized it, but they said it again. They've said it in all their press releases. I've read 5 of them, and they said but the banks want to ban it. I think their compromise was this. The compromise is go ahead and make it legal, go ahead and tax it, and go ahead and surveil and track it. But if we find out that Bitcoin was used in the Ukraine for weapons to use against the Donbass people and part of the genocidal scenario that they're unfolding right now, they're still uncovering all these bodies, like 276 bodies. They're going to wrap them up. They're going to rope them up together here. And it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to survive that, while simultaneously the drive to regulate crypto and Bitcoin in the United States is happening. And they've been very hush-hush about that. But I think this has to be, the reason why I came up with this scenario is that in the video I put up with Liz Warren that we had in the original Bitcoin Apocalypse, the gentleman in the video said that they want to criminalize it with a worldwide agreement. The only worldwide agreement I see that would bring that all together would be the Magnitsky Act, human rights violations, Ukraine, genocide, war, and let's see where that goes here, because the powers that be, they're not in agreement right now. You got UN over here, you got EU, NATO here, but it's going to be really hard for anyone to argue if Russia, being head of the UN Security Council, to say we have a genocide case here and we're running the UN Security Council here. So big things happening here in the Bitcoin apocalypse, but it looks to me like the cards are lining up. And remember this too, it was Donald Trump who said that Bitcoin looks like a scam to him. It's like, I always believe that these words are said 2, 3 years, 4 years ahead in advance for something in the future here. Let's say, how is Trump going to be right? The only way for him to be right with that statement is for it to be disclosed that it was a scam. And I just, I think that because of his background, his uncle being John G. Trump, who was the guy who got all the data from Nikola Tesla, and all these intelligence people around him. His tech guy was Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is this guy here. He's so far high up on the food chain of technology and spying and espionage and data, especially in the tech world here. Trump had access to all this. So I believe this is all going to rope up together here, as well as what I talked about. And it's actually the pictures right here. You really can't see it, but what do you see there? It's Trump and Vladimir Putin shaking hands. I believe that there's something going on here. And I think we're going to see more of this come together here in the Bitcoin apocalypse. So there's more to this. I thought it was going to end today.
Well, but I'm going to pause you there. First of all, what a very well thought out scenario. Makes a lot of sense to me. Of course, we'll let our viewers make up their own darn minds. But I've got one, kind of a big knuckleball from left field, John. And of course, we talk offline too. This is not rehearsed, nothing would matter. But we hear Russia, Russia, Russia. Like he said, your toilet backs up. It was Putin that did it. It's got to the point of absurdity if you can, function in a reasonable mental capacity. Mm-hmm. But what if, as this unravels, meaning the Ukraine-Russia scenario, that it's played so carefully, it's such an excellent chess game, that when you're one move from checkmate. It's determined all of this scumduggery that's gone on with some of these people that are in power now, with like someone you're hunting for and someone that's, getting the crack pipe for free because it's a new edict in the federal government. So let me get right to the point, since this is, I don't have to worry too much about YouTube. What if it unfolds that we get all of the dirt on what the Bidens have done in the Ukraine, what the Clintons have done in Ukraine, what everybody's done in Ukraine, and actually when all the dust settles and you're that one move to checkmate, it turns out that we find out the truth on all of this stuff. Is that something that's even a possibility in the way you see this geopolitical structure, John?
Yeah, I think I in today's show I talked to people about my Telegram is it's 24/7 active. It's worldwide. It's global, and it's live, so it's ongoing. And I told people today, and if they've been listening to it for a while, they get it. They're on top of it. But I say, in order to really get a good grasp on things, you almost have to hitch a ride with Michael the Archangel and go up to 100,000 feet and look at the chessboard. I mean, you're looking at multiple 3D chessboards going on, and you have to be able to look at this and put together a scenario here. And I kind of visual it. It's not artificial intelligence. In fact, I believe the person that can do that is ahead and above artificial intelligence, because you can see things, because you understand human emotion and behavior much better. But artificial intelligence can't assess good and evil. That's really important. Good and evil cannot be detected here. It can only detect what it's been programmed to detect. There's a spiritual aspect to this also. But going up from above, there is something going on here. And can we see a big, is the red wave that Trump talked about more than just a red wave of Trumpers? Is the red wave a Russian wave coming down, pushing back, in Eastern Europe, and pushing a gold-backed ruble? They're already in Nasara Jasara, as far as I'm concerned, a commodities-based economy where they're giving people freedom. And while Trudeau is crushing everyone, I mean, you look at this is just unheard of. But yeah, I believe that there's a bigger picture unfolding, a bigger plan for everyone, and it's unfolding here in real time. And I have, yes, to your commentary, yeah, I do have a bigger picture plan that I see unfolding. I'm just giving one slide of it right now, one light angle of what I see here coming and done. But to me, I do see a bigger plan unfolding here. And part of that plan is, the introduction of a U.S. federal coin. The gold-backed ruble digital coin is out. They're testing it right now. Gold-backed digital coin. I've been saying this throughout the conspiracy. BTC, beta test coin, was the test. They buy up all the technology, throw the rest to the side. Banks taking the technology and they're using it. And this great reset of COVID, the war and everything else, I think the bigger picture here is to layer an entire new financial system on top of everyone and everything, while everyone's distracted with this war, this problem, that there really is something coming in on the back end here. And that it's just the one thing everyone needs to be awake from about. But the most important thing is right now, I mean, the most important country to look at right now is to look at Canada and look at what Trudeau's doing here and just say to yourself, what if this happens here? It can happen here in the United States. There's nothing stopping Biden from going full Trudeau here and catching everyone off guard. My advice there is to prepare for it. Just prepare for it, because it can happen overnight. And of course, who would they blame? In fact, I'm reading, literally just popped on my screen here. Prime Minister Trudeau says Canada will stand against authoritarianism. This is literally announces sanctions against Russia. After he seized the truckers, after he shut down freedom of speech, after he seized their wallets and seized their bank accounts, he comes out and says Canada will stand against authoritarianism and announces sanctions against Russia. This is Vladimir Putin has outplayed them in a master stroke of geopolitical and geostrategic genius here. Now this is going to set off. These sanctions are going to set off a series of events that are going to blow back and topple the EU economy, the Canadian economy, and eventually the U.S. economy. This is Trudeau coming in. I mean, he's saying this. This is like, this is like watching Benny Hill of politics. We just need the music. This is like watching the Keystone Cops. It just is terrifying to see this happening here. Authoritarian Russia, and they're going to keep blaming Russia more. And Putin's going to be on television saying, "Look, I have natural gas, I have gold, I have crude oil, and it looks to me like you don't like Keystone oil pipelines. You're grabbing people's money, and they're doing some great. They're probably the best. Trudeau is the best PR department that Vladimir Putin or Xi of China could have right now. I mean, he's just the greatest investor relations guy ever for Canada, but going in the wrong direction here. And then his sidekick, Freeland, who's just, I mean, she's just a maniac. That's all I can say about her. She's crazier than Trudeau.
Yeah.
She really. I
agree. Yeah.
I heard the speech. I'm still baffled, to it. I just is not what I expected. To me, it's like, this is like watching Trudeau and Freeland are like, this would be the equivalent of watching Bill Clinton say that, and Hillary Clinton taking over the United States. It just, we talk about this. So anyhow, we have a lot to come here, coming here. But definitely, I was surprised though with Trudeau and authoritarian, but Trudeau's take on crypto, that falls right in with the crypto conspiracy. Didn't expect it from him, but I will not be surprised if Trudeau takes the crypto thing to the next level. And what will he say? Because, Russia's accepting Bitcoin. People are saying, well, John, they're using it to get around sanctions. I'm like, you really think that Vladimir Putin is sitting back saying, should I open up a crypto wallet to get around the United States government? There are people telling me this. Well, John, he's like, yeah. I can hear him now. Lavrov, did you open up your wallet yet? We got to get around. People actually believe that. They have their own. SWIFT. The minute they take Russia off SWIFT, we have SWIFT, sanctions, and Nord Streams. That's there, and there's a fourth one coming. The three horses of the economic apocalypse in Europe. We got sanctions now, and now they got Nord Stream 2. When they announce SWIFT, and I'm going to bet they're going to announce it in the next 48 to 72 hours, when they take Russia off the SWIFT system, that's when China's going to step in and say, here's our new system here. We don't need you. By the way, if you'd like some natural gas, here's our new
here's our system.
Crypto. Yeah, here's our system now. Since yours sucks, and of course, if you're in Canada, you Canadians will be going, we want a Russian gold-backed ruble here. What? Because Trudeau's stealing all our accounts. He's stealing our money. What's next? It's scary. Trudeau. It's terrifying what Trudeau is doing right now. But his real name is Castro, so this probably makes some sense to some people.
Well, I think this might be a good place to go ahead and put a pause in, John. I think we're going to continue the apocalypse as you outlined it. Thank you for doing such a good job of building the story on how we could have a genocide and how that could work its way into a global agreement that we would be in a situation where it is outlawed, where Bitcoin is outlawed. And I think the scenario you gave is feasible. And I think you're right that the only way you could get total agreement would be something like genocide. It'd be very hard to do any other thing where you would have all the political powers out there to agree on something. But that's one that I think they would. So that was well put together. That was well thought out.
Yeah, that the timing of that, and you look at this, and actually it was Trump came out today and said that Putin's strategy was with Biden makes Putin look like an absolute genius. And I agree 100%. I think what Trump did today, here it is right here. President Trump said today that Putin is outsmarting the Biden administration. I've been posting this now for a few months. A masterstroke of geostrategic genius by Putin. He outsmarted everyone. He's going to win without firing a shot. These people want to see shots fired. Yeah. And he's going down the road of the The art of war, no shots fired. And it was the president of Hungary who came out today and said, "Hey, gosh, I don't want to quote him because I'll ruin it." He made a quote today that was just absolute history. I hope everyone watched this speech from Vladimir Putin yesterday and read the subtitles. It's 58 minutes long. It's worth reading. It is history. It was very historical. It was much more than I expected, but he went down the detail. I recommend that people watch that speech. But here's the quote from Trump today, and we'll end it. This is genius. Putin declares a big portion of the Ukraine. Putin declares it as independent. So Putin is now saying it's independent. A large section of Ukraine. I said, how smart is that? And he's going to go in and be a peacekeeper, which is true. Because if you watch that area, I've watched Ukraine since the 2013 Maidan false flag by Obama and Biden. They've just been literally blowing residential homes to smithereens with artillery. It's ugly. And that's the strongest peace force. Yeah, Russia going in, they're going to stop. Anybody can look it up. Go to 2013, 2014, type in Donbass. You'll see stuff there that will just mind-bending. They were blowing up civilians, not soldiers, not military. We could use that on our southern border. You hear that? Trump said we could use that on our southern border. He just hinted here what he's going to do. Trump is going to return. They're going to launch Truth Social here very quick. When Trump returns, he's going to put the military at the southern border. And that's what's going to do. That's what's going to come here. And he's basically using Putin as a model. And they're going to pull it off here. There'll be no world war. And this is what's going to set aside, because the precedent that Putin is setting right now is completely legal. It was historically, and that's why I said watch the speech with Putin and read the transcripts. And it looks to me that Trump is going to put the U.S. military at the southern border, and rightfully so, because of all the human trafficking and drug trafficking. And it ends with this. No, but think of it. Here's a guy who is very savvy. I know him very well, very, very well. Yeah, well, that goes to the picture up here. I know him very well. They're shaking hands. You got to say that's pretty savvy. And you know what response was from Biden? There was no response. They did not have a response for that one here. So I'll end it there here. I think we got more to go here, but great series here, David. I'm really enjoying my time with you talking on this topic here.
Well, I do have one thought, and I forget when it was, but it was a few years back, and it really hit home with me. And I give credit, I don't remember who said it. It might have just been written in one of the alt medias that I listen and read. But it said, Russia is becoming America, and America is becoming Russia. And that really made sense to me.
Yeah, that...
I'm not a big Putin fan. My thing on politics. I have to, back off of what I just said. It was a very succinct sentence that pretty much clarified what was happening geopolitically. America was becoming more authoritarian, and Russia was becoming more of an open, free society. And that's a sad state of affairs when we think about it, especially raised the way I was, home of the free and, land of the free and home of the brave, and believing that for a fair amount of years, and actually living in a pretty free country. I mean, I can't deny that, but certainly what's happening now. So if I can just close it there, John, you're welcome back always. I know that you like to detail as much as possible. Again, I commend you for that outline on putting all of those dots together to come up with a scenario that's feasible. We don't know if it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, that's true.
You heard it here first. And after all, John, as we both like to joke, it's just a conspiracy.
Yes. And I'll tell you one thing. What's really neat about the timing of Bitcoin apocalypse is that it's, when I talked about it in the silver psyop, I said that silver would go up and Bitcoin would go down. The end of the silver psyop is when they cross and they decouple, which they are. The beginning of the apocalypse follows the decoupling there. So this goes right on the tail end of silver psyop perfectly.